You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. The Council of Neighborhoods is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the last Thursday of each month. The Council of Neighborhoods provides a forum for neighborhood associations to share information, concerns, and ideas, and provides a mechanism to communicate with elected officials and governmental agencies. And now, the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods.
I'd like to welcome you to the August 30th, 2012 meeting of the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. We're here mostly, the agenda tonight is discussing an upcoming mayoral forum that's to take place on September 27th in room 219 here at City Hall. Would you folks like to introduce yourselves around? If you don't mind starting right there, just name and neighborhood affiliation or your interest.
My name's Alan Long. I'm with Waterman Woods.
I'm Randy Werner. I'm with Rupel Road.
Don Connor, Root School.
Richard Russell, Jennings Plus neighborhood.
Aubrey Shepherd, Town Ranch neighborhood.
James Butch Koger. Forgot the property association. Same Valley.
Same Valley,
Stan Lancaster, Jefferson Walker.
Lindsley Smith,
And we're
staff
doing-
of the meeting for tonight. Communication Director for the City of Fayetteville.
All right. Here's an agenda. Call to order. That's done. Old business. Let's take a minute and check and see if we have any neighborhood updates. That's item 3. We are continuing planning for our forum, but I wonder if we have anyone present who's here for a neighborhood issue.
Well, I mean, the reason that I'm here this is, I guess, really the first meeting that I've been to, and we are Rupel Road is a development out off of Weddington. So my affiliation with that property is that our family owns the remaining lots, or the majority of the remaining lots, and we're trying to get and work with that POA to get them more involved. And this is one of the areas, one of the, I guess, sort of meetings that we've learned about that go on in the city, and think it would be a good thing for that POA to become a part of and get involved with this organization, or with this group in this meeting.
Do you mind my asking how you spell Rose?
Row, it's Rupel and then Row, R-O-W.
And the idea being, can you expand that concept for me? Just
It's a development. There are row houses. It's very similar to Lakewood, out near the mall. So it's a very similar housing area, and I'm not exactly sure how many homes are actually there right now, but there are a number of them built out, and duplexes being built currently, and then and other houses being developed. So the ownership, the POA out there is really in an infancy stage. So the owners are really, it's come from a developer-controlled POA to now the owners are sort of taking over and starting that process. So really, definitely very early on in that process for that neighborhood.
It's nice to meet you. I'm going to hand you a copy of our bylaws.
Okay.
Before I hand it to you, I'm going to mention a couple of things out of our mission statement. One is to promote and enhance the quality, stability, and vitality of the various neighborhoods in the city of Fayetteville. And this one is interesting, to provide a forum for neighborhood associations to share information, experiences, concerns, and ideas, and to help facilitate communication between neighborhoods through their associations and government agencies. Moving the seat.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Hi, would you like to join us at the table?
Well, I can, I don't have to.
Well, it's a little easier to get your comments and get acquainted.
I'm just here to learn.
Hopefully you'll sign our sign-up sheet too.
Yes.
Can I ask what your zoning is at Rupel Road?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know.
There,
It was single family, and then there are a section of duplex lots. So
SF4.
They got one of those new designations. It's
Neighborhood conservation, I think is what they call that.
I'm not exactly sure.
That's good.
I believe that's the one they are, is neighborhood conservation.
Do you know where we'd find that information if we were looking for it?
Down at the planning department.
Planning lab.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jeremy Pate will be able to
Yeah,
tell you.
I can.
Okay, other neighborhood issues, comments, reports?
Well,
I guess.
I always have something.
Oh, yeah.
We've reached a new high or low in construction in our neighborhood. That's between, town branches between 15th Street and MLK, and between Razorback Road and South School Avenue. So we've got the just completing construction of apartments on the sale barn where most of the veterans in town in the region thought the National Cemetery eventually would expand. And now there's the newest thing is there's a come and go store at Cumming. Apparently they didn't, it was approved with conditions that certain things be arranged a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, approved by the city council. So it didn't come back for public discussion because only the, excuse me, only the planning department and engineers had to certify it. I think the city engineer had the final say if they arranged their street work to suit everybody, particularly the highway department. And then on top of Rocher Heights, that's the mountain where Sunset Manor Nursing Home used to be, you hear thunder frequently, and it's blasting, deep blasting goes on up there. And they blow a whistle or something, and then kaboom. If you're outside, you can hear the whistle, but sometimes in my house, you just feel the house shake and know that either there's a big storm or they're setting one off. And last time I was up there, you could see those lines to the dynamite charges going in all directions from certain places up there that are strung out. So that one's a little louder than we expected it would be. And then just to the west, there's another one that's well underway that's at the old Love Box site, and it's practically, you know, for all purposes, it's part of our neighborhood. A few people that live in that immediate area sometimes attend our meetings. But anyhow, it's sort of shocking. We're back to 2005 or something with fast, rapid, bam, bam, bam development. So I'm sure you guys have a little increase in development, something
Yes.
that was not done 4 years, 5 years ago, or whatever, and it's coming up. So yeah, it's an exciting time in many ways.
Yeah.
Something I might add that goes hand in hand with what Aubrey said, something that all neighborhoods have to watch out for is that our city council passed a new ordinance that we had an ordinance that served us very well, that helped protect our neighborhoods for many years, that limited single-family residences to 3 unrelated renters. And this was all very interesting, the way this came down. The Marinoni property in West Fayetteville in Ward 4, one of our new alder people, without being very public about it or coming to anybody in Ward 4, talked with Ms. Marinoni and Capstone Development, and Capstone Development deals only with universities in building large-scale developments for students only. And Capstone Development wanted high density on the Marinoni property, and part of what they wanted was to change that 3 unrelated to 5 unrelated in a single-family dwelling, and it goes beyond that, much beyond that, up to actually 20 unrelated in a fourplex. But anyway, the city council very hurriedly voted and did change the 3 unrelated to 5 unrelated. One of the reasons I was asking you about your zoning, the zoning only has to be a PZD. It can be on a very small piece of land. The way I understand it right now, there is a, I think it's a 1.5 acre piece of land in Fayetteville in a established neighborhood that a builder has gone in and done a PZD, and there's going to be several single-family rental houses built there that'll have 5 unrelated students in it. So what this is doing, this is opening the floodgate to where anywhere in the city of Fayetteville, any neighborhood, I don't care how expensive the homes are, how large they are, how small they are, how quiet the neighborhood is, how well established the neighborhood is, anybody can come in, do infill, and believe me, it will come to buying existing homes and remodeling, and there will be putting 5 unrelated in there, which everybody knows in this town. You put 5 male students in there, and there's going to be 5 female students living with them. So it's not 5 unrelated in a house, it's going to be 10 people, which means 10 cars, traffic burden, and it's really, really serious what's going to happen to our neighborhoods in Fayetteville. And all this was brought forward. Lots of people spoke against it. It fell on deaf ears except for 2 council people. And it was pushed right on through. So that's something that all of us in our neighborhoods need to be watching out for. This can be reversed, but we need to look at people, council people running. It's kind of odd that a lot of the people, almost all the people that voted for this and pushed it through, are not running for re-election.
That's right.
So, you know, it's kind of like running the city and then get off the council. So, yeah. Anyway, all I can say is we need to get council members on there that, in my opinion, care about the city, and that maybe we can get a lot of this changed before it gets worse.
That's a good mayoral debate question right there.
It's a great mayoral debate question because the current mayor could have vetoed this, and he did not.
Well, actually, with the way the vote went, he couldn't have vetoed it. He could have vetoed it and they would have voted the same and it would have overridden his veto. That's why he didn't veto it.
Well,
Because it was 6-2.
but the mayor has the right of veto, the way I understand it, and it can be brought up for a public vote, which, something as serious as this, I think the public should have had an opportunity to vote on something.
Well, a lot of us do, but you know, I really think the main reason it wasn't vetoed is because of the fact that they could have voted right then and overridden his veto, and it would have been nothing. You know, it would have just meant nothing.
Well, it wouldn't, but of course, the older person that brought it up, the mayor was behind that person 100%. So, in my opinion,
I'd say that.
Gentlemen, point of order, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure this is sounds like we've got a political debate here going on, and maybe we should go forward. If I may say one thing on this particular action of the council, which I had no strong opinion on because I didn't know how much difference it would possibly make. Nobody controlled the number of people right now in the House, and that is sort of a technicality that may or may not be very significant, but the point is that it does come back. The council has to approve anything in that zoning. It's not a use by right, regardless of the zoning. to do this for a particular project, it does go to the council. It doesn't stop with the planning commission, or over the last decade and more, we've gradually gone to more things being decided in committees of the planning commission, in the planning commission itself, and not going to the council. It's reduced the time the council has to listen to things or the homework they have to do. But the fact is that I sort of thought that was a weakness. It made the staff happy in many cases, that they could be done with it. They wouldn't have to rewrite it afterward if the council listened to the people. So I certainly agree that everything possible that would affect a neighborhood should be considered in public always, and not just in a small committee, which some of the committees don't get much attention, and people tend to, not notice there's 2 or 3 background committees meetings about some first project goes to oftentimes to the park board and decide whether they want to accept money in lieu of parkland or demand parkland. And then it'll go to these various subdivision committee, the technical committee that looks at infrastructure requirements for the project. And each of those steps, if you know it's coming, if you somehow found out, notice that one little sign on that 30-acre site or something, and sometimes they get knocked down or something, and you don't see them, and they don't get your attention. But if you find out early enough, you can be at every one of those meetings. The public can express themselves on the project in each step, and I firmly believe that's the way a neighborhood should do it, is go to the very first thing and listen and comment at each level as it goes forward. And your opinion about it may always be negative or positive, but from the beginning to the end, but your knowledge of it is important, and to share that with your neighborhood, what the real plans are. And if you are successful in getting something that you think your neighbors won't like removed from a project or modified, then any modification that improves the comfort zone of the neighborhood is important to work for. Sorry.
Your point of order was?
That we not have a political contest here. My comment, I don't have any comment to that, but nonetheless, I hope it had some information.
I think we can re-examine our bylaws. I think I've got another copy here I can show to you and remind you about the forum aspect, and that's my core interest, is for each person who comes to join us to have a chance to speak, have something to say. Ms. Coberly, this is probably pretty educational for you. I don't know if you've ever attended any of our meetings, but some points got articulated pretty well, I thought. And I was curious if you have anything going on in University Heights. You're a member of that association? Or?
I am, but I'm not here to represent them. I'm just here to learn tonight. But of course, I think everybody in this room knows that our neighborhood is opposed to the Cleveland project.
It's a forum, as I see it, we join here together, and if somebody bothers to come, likely they've got something on their mind, and
well,
I think it should
that.
be.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It should be brought up. And so, have you got thoughts in that direction that you'd like to talk about?
On which project? On
the one you just mentioned.
Well, to tell you the truth, I signed a petition against that project.
Can you remind us briefly which project you're speaking of?
It's the complex that they're 900, where it's right next to Leverett School.
So it'd be Cleveland and Hall?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and when I signed the petition against it, I thought, well, the neighbors know what they're talking about, and I didn't know that much about it. But I have to tell you that when I went to council and heard how the developers were bending over backwards, I thought, well, maybe we need to rethink this, because if the university buys it, they could do anything they wanted without asking the city's approval. And I thought we better be careful what we ask for. But then later, I learned that some people that are pretty knowledgeable about the university said the university has no interest in that property. They've always had interest in buying the Leverett School. If that ever closed, that they don't think that that's ever going to happen, but nevertheless, never's a really long time.
They almost did it in '02.
Did what?
Close Leverett and
Did
had the
they really?
university buy it. It was real close.
Yeah, the people in our neighborhood don't seem to be opposed if Leverett's, well, they like Leverett School, don't get me wrong. But if the university were to buy Leverett School and it was facing Garland, they seem to be more supportive of that rather than in the middle of the block.
I don't know who, the university, people purchasing property from the university and stuff, I don't know why anybody would think that they would tip their hand and say what they were and weren't going to buy. I happen to know for a fact that the university has been in negotiation with the owner of the Red Roof Apartments. And
Really?
that they are ready to buy those.
Really?
Of course they are. They want that property. If Seth Mims doesn't buy that property, that's going to be the owner of that property, is the University of Arkansas.
Well, that doesn't make a huge difference on the.
Well, of course it does.
Yeah.
That is what Seth Mims and his people do, is come in, they buy property close to the university. They build LEED certified complexes for the students. They charge the students more money if they have a car, encouraging them to walk. What's going on with Project Cleveland is Archie Schaefer is just so dead set against that he's got a whole bunch of people all stirred up. He has started rumors, out and out lies. And I'll say that to his face. I know Archie Schaefer very well. Archie's been to prison. He's taken it from
Fletch,
Don Tyson.
excuse me, this is just,
Aubrey, let me.
well, I'm
let me
sorry, you're
finish.
making accusations.
I'm not making accusations.
Well, okay,
I'm telling the truth.
allegations have nothing
Once
to
I
do with
finish, you can say
what
whatever
they-
you want to,
say.
Aubrey.
Well,
But I'm not saying anything that isn't the truth. Do you know for
Let
a
me-
fact that
let me,
Archie Schaefer hadn't been to prison?
Let me
No,
Okay.
interrupt, gentlemen.
We're beside the point.
We're just
I think
I'll finish.
I think it's probably time to stop and
It is.
move on.
But
I'm asking
Project Cleveland
Mr.
is
Coker.
a very good project, and it should go on. But I know for a fact that the University of Arkansas has been in negotiations with the owner of that property. I was at the meeting. I'll
Can
stop
we
there.
move on? We got other people, and then, of course, we have our planning that we need to do as well.
Sure.
So, Ms. Daniels, Spring Valley.
There are a couple things I want to bring to the council's attention. I work at the university and was in a meeting this week. There is a lot of concern about gang activity that is taking place in Fayetteville, and they are they're using the transit center, which they have every right to because it is federally funded, but then they use that to get out to other parts of Fayetteville. And I don't know that the city of Fayetteville has been talking about this issue at all, but I know it is a great issue on campus right now. I had a meeting about it this morning at length, and this gang is a very violent gang, and we've all been told not to engage them in any way, but to call UAPD if we have any interaction. They have sexually harassed young ladies on the buses. There was a stabbing that took place on a bus last spring, which is attributed to this gang. And so if Fayetteville police are not cognizant of this, they need to be, because it affects not just university community, but all of us who have homes near the university. They tend to live in tent cities, and so wherever there's a tent city, it's possible some of these people are residing there, and it's something that we need to be aware of. The other thing, going back to Aubrey's point about these various multifamily dwellings that are being built, is I'm wondering, forgive me if I'm not up on this, but I'm wondering the last time the census was done of multifamily housing in Fayetteville, and that included housing units that were less than 50, because there are many of those that I understand in the past have not been included. And my concern is Fayetteville, the developers are going to be overbuilding, and that's going to have a different type of impact on all of our neighborhoods. And so,
Thank you. I think you're getting some good notes taken by someone who
yeah.
can get their story out.
Do you know the name of the gang or their logo or whatever they call their?
The graffiti.
Yeah. Is there any way to identify?
They're called the Juggalos.
Juggalos.
And they use a running hatchet man as their logo. Knives and hatchets are their preferred weapon, and they have operated in many different states. And because Fayetteville is known as being homeless friendly, if you will, they are operating here. And as I said, there's become great concern about them on campus.
So what is their purpose for being here as far as you understand it?
It's just another place for them to go. They're nomadic in nature. And so this is a place they could come where they know they can get free food, where there's established tent cities.
Where is the tent city at?
There's some on Markham Hill. There's some over near you by the railroad tracks. Along the south part of town, there's quite a few different tent cities, or tent encampments, maybe is a better.
To me, it sounds like it's more it's just a perceived increase in the number of homeless people that are potentially threatening to the population, but it doesn't sound like a gang as I know it. A gang involves an organization.
The FBI last year designated them as a gang. I would not come and speak about this lightly.
Well, I'm
and
not
so
dismissing it,
you might want.
Having lived here since 1952, it's just, knowing people all over town and having worked with the poor and the homeless, my impression is that, from what I understand of gangs, a gang is something that's organized as a criminal enterprise to make money, and I don't see how
They
should be a nuisance.
They are much more loosely affiliated, but they are considered a gang.
So what other problems have they caused that you know?
Around here, I don't know of many other problems. I don't know what the city of Fayetteville has found with them. I don't know what Chief Tabor or any of his people might know. I can report what's happening on campus, and that the university police department does not tend to bring something like this to everyone's attention unless there's reason to be concerned.
Okay.
Well, actually, I saw
University police working with the Fayetteville police?
I'm sure they are. I know, heard that they had talked to them about it. So,
I own property up on top of Markham Hill, 2.5 acres. And I talk with Chief Tabor quite frequently, and he hasn't mentioned anything about encampments up there or anything.
I know in Markham there had been squatters, but then they come in every once in a while and route them, and just a new crop show up.
Felicia Ferris has an old abandoned house up there, and I know Felicia's had some problems. We've talked of doing some security up there, but it's just been like 1 or 2 people, never anything organized. It's interesting.
I actually went on a ride out with the police department a few weeks ago until about 4 in the morning. And the police officer I spoke with said that it still was an issue in Fayetteville. I don't know to what extent, but
Gangs are both.
No, I'm talking specifically the Markham Hill persons living there on different properties. I haven't walked it myself. Just addressing that one point in particular, I don't know.
People squatting on Markham Hill at least since the mid-60s.
That's kind of what he mentioned.
but I think the point is though that Fayetteville's changing. And so some of the problems we've had in the past,
They're asking us to speak up.
Okay. Some of the problems we've had in the past, they're changing. They're morphing into something that they weren't before. And we've always had homeless. That's no problem. But when there's a group that is finding its way into Fayetteville and they're starting to cause trouble, then that's a whole different game.
Okay. And I'm sure as far as the homeless situation in this area has been blessed with better, less effect and better recovery from the recession. And we have a reputation for being a kinder, more generous people, I think, in this area than a lot of other areas. So there will be, until the economy improves, there will be an increase in homeless. But I'm not denying that it's a problem, just trying to contextualize.
Okay.
How about the context of Waterman Woods and Sang Valley, Mr. Long? Have you got some neighborhood points to make?
We haven't had any issues as of late, except for too many deer eating our gardens. But other than that, things seem to be going pretty
They're
well.
looking for water, that's for sure.
Yes.
Can I go back to the
please
Cleveland
do.
project? Does anybody know the status of the court case?
I didn't know that one was filed. That's all. I
Yeah,
know.
but then it said in the paper that part of the ordinance was, not valid, so I didn't know if that canceled the court case or.
It has.
No, it didn't happen.
The court case has been decided.
Was it?
Yes. It's been decided that the ordinance was basically illegal.
Mhm.
So
they dropped the court
the suit's
case.
been dismissed.
I see.
Yes, it has. So the Cleveland project will go forward.
I didn't see that in the papers.
Okay. We have quite a few things to discuss regarding our mayoral forum that's taking place next month. And so I'm really glad that you all came and that this discussion got started, and most definitely you can continue discussing with each other. Hopefully this meeting fosters the beginning of those conversations.
I think public safety would be an excellent area for us to be asking each of the candidates about.
Well, we're going to get to how questions are presented. If we can get to that part of the agenda, and if I can go through it correctly and touch all the points. I have a little marching order list here that I need to refer to. So excuse me if I rustle papers, but one thing we need to do is to identify a moderator for this forum that's to take place. And wondering if we have any nominations.
This, Mr. Chairman, comes from Joanne Kwame, who did some research, as a couple others have done, and she identified a person who would be happy to serve in that capacity, and she recommended her, and I find no reason not to recommend her. And she will be available. So, Fiona M. Davidson, she's an associate professor and director of the European Studies program, and is actually also, what would you say, she's a geographer with a wide knowledge of geography and so forth.
Geosciences professor at the University of Arkansas.
And she is very involved with politics, but she's not a person who's associated with a candidate in this local race. And that was, I think, the best thing we wanted for that job.
I believe some of her credentials are that she's an expert in urban morphology and planning. So that sounds like possibly a fit.
Well, she could make up her own questions then. For this.
Formulate, make a formal nomination then, nominate her.
I do, and
Do
I
you have
make a
anybody
motion.
else, any other ideas? Good person to moderate. As you can tell, I'm probably not a good person to moderate.
I would second Aubrey's recommendation.
I would like to say that since Mayor Jordan is from the University of Arkansas and had a strong political following from the University of Arkansas, I don't think it would be appropriate to have a moderator associated with the University of Arkansas.
Are you talking about the mayor's forum or the alderman's forum?
The mayor's forum.
Mayor's forum.
We discussed having an alderman forum, but I don't know that we found the space for it. There's been some discussion of letting alderman candidates have a brief say at this meeting next month.
Well, I think there's one scheduled for the 24th, isn't there?
With what
September.
organization? An
There are
alderman
probably
forum-
going to
forum?
be several, so.
There may be, but it may not be. It's not by this organization.
No, but it was at the
That's just one on the
Ward
24th and
4.
25th so far.
Ward 4.
Do you have a venue?
That's just for Ward 4 candidates. There will be a Ward 4 candidate forum at the Ward 4 monthly meeting on August 24th at tentatively, September
Yeah.
24th, tentatively at 6 p.m. We're waiting on one of the candidates to see if they will have a planning commission meeting that night. So.
The thing I was referring to was, it's been mentioned that a introduction, just a brief introduction of alderman candidates be included in this meeting. So that's something to keep thinking about as we go proceed here.
And what day is that scheduled?
The 27th. That'll be the date of our, so we meet on the last Thursday of the month. Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods. And this is going to take place in room 219 here in City Hall. Stan?
Oh, I just want to read the reference back to the approval or non-approval of the proposed moderator for the sake of expediency.
Go ahead with the vote on that. All in favor of Fiona Davidson?
Well, maybe, Mr. Chairman, you should ask if anybody else has a comment before
Sure.
you call the question.
The reason I'm saying this is I think that in all fairness, that we ought to have somebody that should be considered totally neutral and totally impartial, as a moderator.
Someone who has not worked for the university or the city, or
Exactly.
do you have anything else on your
Exactly.
list?
Maybe we can get Dan Rather or somebody from out of town who doesn't know us at all.
That would be
That'd be
ideal.
suitable.
Have you got any suggestions?
I don't. I didn't anticipate somebody being, I mean, I know you're very pro, you know, Mayor Jordan, you know, that's fine. I didn't anticipate, you know, it being somebody from the university and that was very involved in politics, you know, being the, you know, nominated as the moderator. I didn't in my wildest dreams think that would be the case.
Well, I didn't come up with this suggestion and have never met the lady, but she was selected with that in mind, that she was very impartial in this kind of race, a local mayoral or council race, and she's not involved.
Who's selected?
In this. Joanne Gavami, who also works at the university and used to attend these meetings regularly and before Don did, and she has helped set up this forum in the recent past.
See, that's what
4 years ago, and 8 years ago.
Mayor Jordan is, you know, he's on leave of absence from the University of Arkansas, and he's going back to the University of Arkansas to work. So
is that right, Butch? Doggone, he had mentioned that out loud, has he?
I think the debates that keep taking place between the two of you are not very non-productive. And I will say this about Fiona Davidson, because I have known her for many years. She is originally
I don't have a problem with
Scott.
the person.
She's originally
I have
from
a problem
Scotland.
with the University
In
of Arkansas
her position as a professor, her interaction with facilities management, where Lionel worked, was probably next to nothing.
Donna, I don't care. It's the idea of the moderator coming from the University of
Can I
Arkansas.
remove this to a vote so we can settle this and move on?
Thank you.
Butch, we're gonna go ahead and vote on it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
How many?
Aye.
How many folks want to vote?
Are we voting on voting?
Yeah, let me clarify. You have, it began with a nomination, and then there was
And I
the open up
seconded.
of a nomination. So you have a second on a nomination. It did flip into a motion. What you might want to do if you're voting on that is just reword. I make a motion that if you actually are going to choose the one person, and then I make a motion that she is, and state the name, going to be the moderator for the forum that will be, and you can give the date, and then put that to the vote, just for clarity.
Okay, I would move that the Council of Neighborhoods select Fiona M. Davidson from the University of Arkansas as the moderator for the September 27th forum.
And I second that motion.
Okay, that's what we thought we were doing before. All in favor of this motion, signify by
Aye.
saying aye or sticking up your hand.
I mean, I can't vote, can I? I mean, I don't know. I don't think I can vote. I'm not a representative. I am. I mean, anybody that comes to these can vote?
Well, not sure about anyone.
No.
Huh?
Yeah.
No,
I'm
it has
not
to be
voting.
registered.
Member of a neighborhood association. So how many members of neighborhood associations do we have here?
I guess we
Well,
have
I'm a member,
2, 3,
but
4,
I'm not main
5, 6,
person.
7.
I'm assuming I am. I don't know how that, we own property and we're part of that property owners association, so, but I don't know that I'm.
No, to be a member of Falcon, you have to be registered with the city of
Right,
Fayetteville.
so we're, yeah, no,
Yeah, I
we're
mean-
working on that process.
Yeah, so if you haven't filled out the forms
Right.
and be registered, then you're not a voting member. That's the way I understand
You have the bylaws,
They are, the second copy
just
of
for
bylaws
specific one.
somewhere.
Yeah, I thought there were official representatives from each one.
it. You're correct.
And we do have a quorum of voting members here. We have one voting member for sure, correct? All in.
Who are you registered for, Donna?
Sang Valley.
I'm from Waterloo.
Yeah.
You are.
I've taken
Kathy's
over for
registered.
Kathy, yeah,
Yeah.
And that's been officially,
for a couple months now. Told Julie McQuaid.
Yeah, she is.
okay, because I'm registered for St. Valley.
I'd say we have 6 voting members present. So let's put it to the vote again. All in favor of this person, Fiona, to be our moderator for our forum, signify by sticking your hand up or saying aye.
Aye.
I mean, what's the count? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the motion passes.
Can I officially vote no? Go on the record as being no?
Anybody that's opposed, signify by saying aye or sticking your hand up.
Aye.
All right, well, we'll get in touch with her and see if she won't do this for us. Find my agenda here. We have voted on who to recruit as a forum moderator. We need someone to arrange for media sponsorship. Don was here earlier and he was making some noises like he could do that. But I believe Aubrey is also.
I'll work with him on that and we'll get that arranged. We talked about that briefly at the previous meeting, I believe.
I have a question about the media coverage. Will KUAF cover advertising for this? I know they don't normally do political advertising anymore, but since this is more of an informative thing.
Well, yeah, they will promote it, but just about if you go and put the items on the radio stations and the TV stations list of calendar events, it will be online. If you mention it to a person there, you can get them to possibly do a story on it. So we always have a little of that. And what we're talking about, media sponsorship, the newspaper, which is now part of the giant conglomerate newspaper, it takes in, so all the newspapers could be sponsoring this together as one in the current situation. So their sponsorship might be just a small ad, but if they do that to let people know free, then it's very useful that this is occurring. Any other additions to what I was saying about media?
Yeah, sponsorship typically, and particularly when you talk to the press, indicates giving of money in order to help provide money in order to make, say, an event happen. What you may be talking about here is asking the press to help make a more informed citizenry about an event that is occurring, which typically is most successful is to be a public service announcement. You are a body in the legislative branch. Your body appointed by the, well, actually, no, this one comes actually from a mayoral resolution, correct? But you are a body branch linked to. This is a public service type of a forum, an objective forum that asks candidates questions to make a more informed society. So what you could do, and a lot of that is just calling the stations, calling the radios, calling the others, and actually wording it as a public service announcement. I will say before the meeting, and it was not part of this, there was a discussion on press releases. Since you are linked to the city and the communication director for the city, I believe it is appropriate that I could draft a press release. And then that way, I would like to, because I am just staffing this committee, you are the voice, you are the vote. I would very much like to, I need to get it to one of you. I'm proposing Richard to say, is this accurate information? And only until he signs off as a chair that it is correct would it go out. But I could send that out for this this group and have it at what you, if you want to talk tonight about, you know, usually you go with the who, what, when, where, why, and how. But it's not a sponsorship. We could not do that as a governmental.
And of course, you can have it on the city website list of.
Yes, and I can.
Meetings.
Yes, and I can send something like that. I can send that out to the press for you. I can also get it through the city clerk's process of anyone who has ever signed up to be on a public service announcement. It will also go to them. Then it's the situation of if the press picked that up. With something like this, my thought is that, well, it's a story. They would. I think it's a story.
Well, all right, let's do that. Any discussion on that? Does anyone, voting members here have
I don't think we need a vote on it. We're just acting on it as a committee. And,
there's there are mechanics to the discussion process that involve time limits and someone saying when a time period has passed and that sort of thing. In the past, they have used some kind of light device that's available from city staff.
Is that part of, Mr. Chairman, is that, let me ask if that's part of the equipment of the government channel, or
Yes, it
who
is.
is bringing it?
We can get, Tyrone has mentioned earlier that we do have a green, yellow, red light timer. It is in the booth in with 219. And I do believe that can be removed and brought down. Is that correct?
Yes.
And those in the booth would not necessarily need it at that time, can be borrowed.
Absolutely.
And if I may just clarify too on the press release, as I kind of understood it, and I'm sorry about the mix beforehand and after, you have talked about two messages, and if I can just present this for your consideration. I'm pleased to do an approach on two press releases. One, if the group is asking the public for questions to submit to Joanne, if that's
Yes,
correct,
right.
that may be something to go out pretty soon, give a deadline, and say there's the FCON's doing a call for questions to submit for consideration. And in there can be for a forum that is on a particular date, et cetera, et cetera. But do a call for questions and let them know, and that informs the public about that you're doing that. And then later do the press release actually where it is in 219 and just do another one.
Yeah,
That's an option if you didn't want to do it all in one.
the basic idea that occurred to me was middle ways through September be a deadline for questions. Does anyone have any thoughts?
But
about
yes,
the
it should
timeframe
be a
for
week,
that?
at least a week before the, excuse
2
me,
weeks?
at least a week. I'd say a week before would be a good deadline. Before the actual forum, Joanne and Stan, I believe, had volunteered to be on that committee so that others
They
wouldn't
got
have to know what all the
September
questions are.
calendar
They just
handy.
submit.
What's the date around the third week of September? That would be the end of a week.
The 17th through the 21st is the week prior to that's the third full week of September.
Why don't we use the 21st then? Does anyone see why that would work as a deadline for questions?
If you want a motion, I'll make a motion. We make that the deadline, 21st of September, to receive proposed questions for the mayoral forum.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, and the only issue when it comes to that is your organizational structure upon which you would know more than anyone. So if you think that, there would be things involved with that in terms of the questions, they could be voluminous. How you have that set up when they go and whoever it would go to. And then are they picking them and then having them ready to get to your chosen moderator by a particular time? If you think that just 7 days is enough time to do that, but if you feel like you need more as a functioning unit, you might consider that.
Yeah, I started off with 2 weeks, but
1 week's fine.
some discussion about that.
I would think a week would still give us plenty of time.
So one thing that a week could do is to provide yourself to be a very objective, not letting the questions out. Those are very important when you look at debates. If you do have it tighter, that is a plus that can be in there, that there's a lessening of a possibility. That it does get engaged in that, and questions that tend to come around with these debates of whether they were leaked or if there's a leaking issue. You need that tightness.
I think we started off using the term debate, but we changed pretty quickly to a forum. As far as questions being unknown to the two candidates, I never did really understand the supreme need for secrecy, but that's just my
I don't
opinion.
understand it either. Because it seems to me if the candidates knew ahead of time, it would give them time to think and
Thoughtful response
Yeah.
rather than a
yeah. Yeah, you know, get the facts and make decisions based on facts rather than just shoot from the hip if you don't have all the facts.
Well, for sure, getting the questions will be the basic part of the process. And so are we in the middle of deciding if the 21st is a good time?
I think we have a motion in a second.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? So let's put that to all in favor of having the 21st being the deadline for questions as part of the release that gets taken to the media so people will know.
Well, now we're adding more to our motion. The idea was to be sure that Joanne Kavami and Stan Lancaster, working with her as a committee, would have these questions to vet for suitability and select, because if things go right, we'll have 100 or 200 questions from different people worded, you know, maybe similar subjects worded differently, so that'll be up to them to
Now they're going to be busy for a week with 100 questions.
Well, we may only have 7, so.
Well, okay. As one of the participating members of this committee, I would like to suggest that we move that deadline back a week from the 21st to the 14th. That would give us adequate time to collate these, distill them down into salient points, and provide copies of those questions, potential questions, not necessarily to be asked them all, but potential questions that can be provided to both candidates.
And I was wondering, this is kind of not exactly about this, but kind of about it. Someone said something about making the formal announcement of the forum to take place after the questions were accumulated. I don't know that those are linked necessarily. People could know the forum was coming up before the questions were collected.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
So the timing on the other release not linked to this necessarily. So,
well, if the reason
I don't have my Robert's Rules of Order with me, and I probably couldn't find it in a half an hour anyway. What do we do with your motion if we
Well, I
decide to
will withdraw my motion and change it to say, I move that we adopt September 14th, 5 p.m. Time certain, deadline for submitting questions to Joanne Kavami, and we can give you her email address, which I think might be a good idea to do it now. If this is broadcast in the next few days, which I hope is true, then that will be a head start on the publicity.
I was wondering about the technique. Do I write it real big on a piece of paper and
Hold it up way big. We might.
Help me out here.
I think the person editing just putting the information on the show, they don't edit these productions that are just meetings. They're supposed to run them complete and total, and no matter how dumb a thing I say, it's going to be on there. So,
are you saying we have to watch the video up to here to
find out? No, actually, I'm saying that the person who puts the titles and things on there might be willing to kindly put the address for the person to receive the email.
Can we go ahead and announce that address, please?
I'll read it off to you. It's all lowercase. It's JOANN dot KVAMME at gmail.com. I'll repeat that. Lowercase JOANN dot KVAMME at gmail.com. You can submit questions to her there. All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, philosophically, we've had people talk about the idea of whether we have secret questions, and that would be the hope that part of the thing about being on the city council or running for mayor. In the past, we have had people who had a much greater interest in prior experience. So if these questions are not extremely complex details, but have relevance to the citizens of what's actually been going on. That's what we hope. We're not going to ask them about how to conduct a war in Afghanistan or something, or something about, you know, just many of the peripheral things that you hear talked about in presidential elections. Did we vote? I'm sorry.
No, we haven't.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay.
We're having
I'm sorry.
some kind of discussion here. So let's put it to a vote. All in favor of this, it's been proposed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. All opposed? We have opposition? No opposition. So that passes. Somehow or another, we need to get some thoughts expressed about structure for this session. One of the things
Hey, Kathy. Good.
we need to, I guess the primary first thing is, are we listening to all of the alderman candidates as part of this same meeting? That's been discussed a little bit.
Let me say this, I know that if I were watching, I'd be asleep or out of the room after about 20 minutes. Because it's gonna take a whole lot of time to do that. I think that if you wanna do that, we should push it to after the mayoral forum, because the only people that are gonna be interested in aldermen, individual aldermen, are the people in that particular neighborhood. And I'm not saying that that's not of value, but it's in terms of the amount of time it's gonna take and the effort involved, I'm not sure that that's really gonna provide that much information to the broad population.
So let's just do just a little straw poll here. Who thinks it's important to link these two activities, the mayoral debate and the alderman introductions? Anybody want to weigh in
I would
on
say that it has occurred in the past, and it may be important to the candidates, to the public they want to serve. So I would agree with Stan that if we do it, it should be, I would suggest just 1 minute introduction of yourself. Let them see your face. They may not have seen your face if you're
No,
not.
I'm not object to 3 minutes or whatever.
But at the end, end of the mayoral.
after the main event?
And
Yes?
yes, sir.
I am an alderman candidate, so I'm not going to vote on whatever y'all decide to vote on, but I do have to say that I think that as far as the mayoral debate, I think it'd be more appropriate if I were just a citizen coming to Washington to only see the mayoral debate.
Do we have any other alderman candidates present who would like to comment on that?
Well, I think that Ward 4 is going to have
It's on forum.
its own forum. So, probably several, I don't know. So I don't really think it would be necessary. But I'm willing to do whatever you want to do, but I don't think anybody's going to care very much.
Do we have any pros, any
What do you think, Donna?
proponents of doing this?
I agree with Aubrey and Stan that it should be done at the end. I
If
think
at all,
most,
or
if at all.
should be done?
If,
I guess the
most,
basic question I'm just trying to entertain informally here is, do we do it? And then, when we do it, is if we do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it needs to be done at all?
I'm trying to think of how many of the other races are uncontested.
2. Ward 1 and 3 are uncontested.
So you've only got Ward 4 and one other.
Ward 2.
How many people do we think? Less than 20?
There would be
3 and 5.
3 in Ward 2.
And 5 in Ward 4.
Yes?
I can say if I were running for an alderman position, and nobody knew who I was, didn't know from my bar so correctly, I'd see the advantage of having a couple minutes just to say, hi, I'm the guy that's going to be on the ballot, and I'm a flesh and blood person. But I think that should be extended to everybody, but that as an option. But outside of just basic introductions, I don't see the point in pursuing.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
I mean, give people the option, but it's not like, in an uncontested, why would you want to show up unless you just want to wave to people and say, okay, I'm the guy, or I'm the woman?
Yeah.
But to me, the mayoral forum is the focus of this.
Yes. I agree.
And we're having the devil's own time of it, getting it organized and agreeing on minutiae.
Right.
So,
Can I propose that we have the mayoral forum first, and then follow up with just introductions, a brief introduction of alderman candidates that want to appear.
do we have a second to that?
I second that motion.
Do we have a legal counsel present who can tell us if that's formulated pretty well?
Yes, we do.
Someone with a doctorate, preferably.
I thought I
I'm
already
a
did.
juris doctor. That works, right? But I used to be associated with the university.
Oh, well,
Well, it's gonna be kind of hard. I mean, even I was associated.
That's where I got my degree.
Yeah, I spent way too much time up there myself.
We have been, I guess.
That is worded fine. Let me, historically, they tend to be more candidate forums. Might be the first time the Council of Neighborhoods has chosen to do the mayoral forum, and that will matter with how you advertise it out there. In the past with the candidate forums, actually I think it was last time the mayoral forum, but the candidates who were running, and I think it was optional, and some of them included, I remember Kit Williams stood up and spoke as well because of the city attorney. So anyone who is a candidate for a city office was given, I believe it was 2 minutes or less. So they went 1 to 2 minutes and they introduced themselves. And they did that at the beginning because then they had the forum. Kyle Killam's last year, or the last time, I guess it was 2 years ago, had moderated it. And I believe their discussion was because they also wanted to have some questions from the audience. So it depends on how you're going to do that. If you're going to do just the questions that are submitted, which is a different way because you're actually asking for questions from the audience early on to have them. But if you have questions in the end, when do you, it sort of hurts the moderator from when do you stop those questions and then leave how much time, if it's going to be an hour event or a 1 hour event. If it's 1 hour, you typically add the other one. But you can do it however you want to. It is your forum that you're organizing.
Yeah, and we're trying to muddle through the structure here in some kind of real time. And we got a motion.
And a second.
I'd like to hear the motion repeated because I have memory problems. But
Okay.
I think I made 2 or 3 tonight. Which one do you want?
the last one,
Okay.
the one that hasn't been voted on.
I suggest that I move that we allow any candidate or city council in any Fayetteville ward to speak 1 minute in a time block at the end of the mayoral forum.
And
I'll second.
You second that? Any discussion on that? Think we should wait for Butch to come back to vote?
We have a forum.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Having none, then it passes. And that'll be important to say something about that in our, whatever we talk to the media about. We'll have to specify that it's afterwards or secondary
Right.
to somehow. Neither one of those word choices were very correct, but somehow or another, we need to emphasize that it's about the forum, I believe, my thoughts.
And we passed that, Mr. Chairman, if I may say, I would certainly hope the unopposed candidates appear.
Sure.
Because, you know, if you're unopposed and you're new to the process, gosh, the neighborhood, people in those neighborhoods haven't even met you in many cases. It's that campaigning where you get out and shake the hands and
So you guys,
face to face with them.
you guys will be practiced from your, it's the It's this thing back here that makes the noise.
Okay.
So, any coaching or counseling or suggestions or thoughts about deeper structure? How long does the person have to answer the question?
3 minutes. That's what I would suggest.
Some of this based on previous experience. And what other aspects of structure can you folks think of? The moderator asks the question, sets the pace. There's a timer device that at least times the responses, right? Question asked, timer runs, light goes off. Moderator reminds the person talking that the time's up. What else goes on? Any thoughts? Do we want to have some input about how many questions?
How's this typically worked in the past? How's it been done every time? I don't remember the structure of this.
Opening remarks from each.
Last one we got to, yeah, they can make some kind of opening remarks, but for the most recent one, we had several candidates, and so it was up to the moderator to remember who had the first shot at each question, and then the next person. In other words, you might speak twice in a row because you get the last speech on one subject and then the first speech on the second question, and so forth. So that works. That's just the.
It's just technique. You
Technique
alternate
for
who
the-
answers
yeah.
first.
That makes adds to the fairness, we hope.
What else, all you political pros, what other things are considerations in a session like this? Well, I don't know what else to talk about structure. So back to the agenda. New business. Agenda items for the October meeting. Well, we know what our agenda is because we're going to have this enormous event. I'm looking forward to it. I had a lady contacted me and asked me if someone she works with could make a presentation about trees. Are we interested in hearing
Is that the tree or the urban forestry
30 to 40 minutes, maybe a review of how we've been doing on our trees in this really stressful summer that we've had, and where we go from here, ideas about kinds of trees, sponsorship of trees, those kind of thoughts. Is that appropriate for a neighborhood meeting? Try to get it on the agenda.
but not for October.
What do you have for October?
I say October. Oh, okay. We jumped September. Yeah, yes, for October. That's wonderful. Hope we'll have some pretty leaves in October, and we'll be excited about our trees.
Announcements? No. It's your last chance to make comments. Brief comments, that is.
I'll motion we adjourn.
We have a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second that. We have a motion and second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.